Hey, you are along for the ride with the Mad Dog and Cole. I got sand in my teeth. Farrell.
The more you argue on the internet, the faster the racer you are.
Coming up next, so he may be able to verify this or debunk it. Jim Beaver, world famous radio personality.
I decided to fly through the air and live in the sunlight and enjoy life as much as I could, and that's just what I'm doing.
Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm. What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure? Stay calm. Wait.
Hey, we're going to get this started real quick here. I just want to say thank you to Kicker Performance Audio, our partner, long-term partner. Just grateful for all their support. Kicker.com. And of course, Bomber Eyewear, Bomber Floating Eyewear. Tommy and the gang build a great product. Check them out at bombereyewear.com. The Premix Podcast, Cole's passion for desert photography. Go check it out. Instagram at the Premix Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Jim Beaver, man, this guy has done it all. He's internationally syndicated, over, I believe, 200 AM FM stations and international on U.S. Armed Forces. Uh, he's raced trick trucks, trophy trucks, side by sides, the Star Car, which I've got some fond memories of the Star Car, and getting to meet Jolene, and that was a very very special moment for me. And Jim has given us great help and advice, and on top of everything else, he's a super rad guy. Um, been a big help to us here, getting us started and along for the ride. I know Cole has some desert stats he's going to throw at us real quick. Cole, what you got?
I mean, how can we talk about desert racing and Jim Beaver without the iconic single seat trophy truck? I think that's the first way that I even got exposed to Jim and all the chaos that ensued. He's a third generation desert racer, which I can't wait to hear a lot more about that. And more importantly, he's been active on Race Desert for 21 years.
Hey, good call. And I left off some of the most important, most recent stuff. Owns one of the most successful is it racing, I racing,
I esports, I guess
esports. Sorry,
sim
sim
racing would
racing.
be the collective term, I guess.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I struggle with that, trying to get the terminology correct. And of course, JB15 Motorsports that covers, dude, just about everything. Um, Jim, thank you for being here, man. We're a blip compared to what you're doing. We're really grateful. I'm really grateful for your friendship, and I'm really grateful to have you on.
Well, I am stoked to be here. I know you told me, when you were starting out, and I was like, I was excited for you guys. I'm stoked you're still doing it. But I tell everybody, just keep producing content, just keep pushing it out. There's so many that I've seen start and they get to episode 3 or 4 and they're like, oh man, there was only 15 people tuned in. I'm out. I'm over it. And I'm like, you just got to keep trucking on, and you guys are keeping to pushing on. And I'm like, I'm just stoked for you guys that you continue the grind.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, you're lucky episode 16. We should have had you on 15. I planned that a little better, but you got preempted by Pie Night and my family's Thanksgiving traditions. So sorry about that, but welcome to episode 16. Uh, man, Jim, I've going through and looking, like, I Googled you because I thought I knew a fair amount about what you've done and what you do. Holy cow, dude. I've so much more. Um, TV voiceover, color commentary, TV work, Mint 400. Got to work with you at Red Bull Sand Scramble last year. Um, Man, there's just so much that you do. What I really want to get to, let's the meat and potatoes of everything. You're a third generation racer, motorsports person. So what lit the fire for you? What got it started? What's the story?
I guess I didn't have much of a choice. I mean, my grandpa, still this day, I mean, he's in multiple boat racing Hall of Fames. He's one of the most accomplished boat racers in history. He's still got some world records that stand today, and
Wow.
and a lot of it's in classes that don't exist anymore, things like that. But my dad was actually training to be an off-road or a boat racer, and then one of my grandpa's drivers that he had driving for him crashed and died, and my grandpa's like, boat racing's just too dangerous, and it still is, man. Those guys are another level crazy.
Yes.
Um, and so he told my dad, "You're not doing that. I don't want to risk my kid's life." And my dad was in college at the time, 20 years old, whatever, just got married. My grandpa's like, no, no, no. So my dad went to college, kind of didn't think anything more of it. And then, I'm just kind of giving you a quick once over on the family history. So
Sure.
my family's got a Ford dealership, second oldest in Arizona, one of the oldest ones in the country. It's been around for over 100 years. And there was
Wow.
a guy that from Oklahoma drove this old long bed F100 out to park from Oklahoma all the way to Parker to race it in the Parker 400. And so guy raced it, and the rear end blew up. So he has it towed to the Ford dealership, and that's his only way to get back to Oklahoma. So my grandpa goes, we don't have the parts, this and that. It's going to take a week to get the parts. We'll fix it. And the guy goes, all right, and so he somehow got a ride to Phoenix to fly back to Oklahoma. He says, I'll come back in a month, pay you whatever. Literally a year goes by, the truck's fixed, this race truck's sitting there, and the guy never showed back up. And so it's like a week before the Park 400, my grandpa calls my dad, who's at college, and says, hey, want to go racing? My dad goes, yeah. He goes, I got an off-road truck for you. So literally this truck that was been sitting in the car dealership for a year, my dad goes and he turns around and races it. And I don't know how far he went and he broke down, but that was kind of my dad's inroads. My grandpa was very close with Bill Strop, Mickey Thompson from his boat racing days, and Bill Strop Ford, things like that. So Bill immediately learned my dad was racing, kind of took him under his wing. And my dad's got some amazing stories of being, pre-running partners with Mickey Thompson for 3 or 4 years. And Bill Strop actually co-drove with my dad for 3 or 4 years. So my dad's got some amazing stories, but, so at that time, I mean, we've got pictures of me. I was born December 22nd and Parker was in January, and we've got pictures of me less than a month old out at the Parker 400. So I didn't really have any choice. I mean, I remember going to Baja as a kid, and first time I ever drove a truck was a pre-runner in San Felipe, and I don't even know how old I was, but I know I almost crashed it through a fence, and my dad was about dying in the passenger seat. So I had been around it. I got into, I started racing, at that point, there was just quads and dirt bikes. There was no such thing as trophy carts and UTVs and things like that. So you just had to go into full-size vehicles right away. So I started in sportsman truck classes, stuff like that, around 19, 20 years old. And, I graduated college, things like that. And, my trophy truck that everybody knows, the iconic single seater and things like that. My dad's got a small town Ford dealership. We're not, we weren't wealthy. And I wanted to go trophy truck racing. That truck took 4 years to build, and I did half the TIG welding myself.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, it was one of those just nights and things like that. So I did a good chunk of the fab work on that myself, because, I'd save enough money to buy some race seats, or I'd save enough money to buy a fuel cell, and I'd order that, and it was one of those where, and some of the big pieces like the suspension stuff, we sent it off. It was done right. It was all CAD design, things like that. But there's a lot of that truck I did on my own, but, got to the point where I couldn't afford to do it. And I'd been a guest on a radio show, and I was kind of doing, and I had some sponsors go, oh, we got some value out of that, and there's things that kind of started ticking my brain. We're talking about 2010, 2011. I was like, man, I can't afford to go racing. And, I'm a grown man. My dad shouldn't pay for it. And so it was one of those where I just thought, oh, sponsors got a good value of me being a guest on a radio show. If I'm actually the host, they probably get a whole lot of value. And so that kind of was how this whole thing steamrolled. And when I started out, it was podcasting was in its infancy. I mean, it was completely in its infancy and nobody wanted to give you a dime for a podcast. So I called my show a radio show and we kind of did it live and things like that. And, fast forward 11, 12 years and here we are. And, it's been an amazing run and opened so many doors that I never, ever would have thought possible, that I'm even making a living in this industry and driving race cars and everything I'm doing. But, it's been very, very fortunate. And I've had some amazing friends that have supported me and companies, and a lot of it's just been word of mouth and referrals and just right place at right time. And I can tell everybody I'm just a dork from Parker and I've got really, really lucky.
But that's what Cole and I were talking about right before you joined was, that was something Cole said. He goes, man, this guy's just a kid from Parker, and I mean, he's made it big. I mean, one of our basically, I mean, Cole's a kid from Orange County. So, and I'm only recently Havasu. So I can't say really hometown boy, but I mean, Parker, Arizona, to nationally syndicated radio and TV host. It's a pretty good story, man.
I tell everybody, I was like, there was a year there from Parker High School where, I graduated, John Tuba graduated. I mean, Tuba's done pretty right for himself also, so I'm like, somehow that little high school in Parker cranked out, a couple people that did pretty darn good there. So, I don't think we can complain too much. We joke, oh, I graduated from Parker High, but I'm like, yeah, you look at the track record, they're not doing too bad there for that one stretch.
Yeah, no, that's pretty impressive. Yeah, and he has done pretty well for himself.
It was amazing. I mean, his talent's just crazy. His artistic, just I don't know. I love John. I love John's work. I love actually seeing John's work that's not race related, because we all see that, but I mean, he's such a great artist and stuff. And when you can let that creative juice flow from John, it's pretty amazing to see what he comes up with, and I love his race stuff, but it's just, there's so much more there, that I don't think many people get to see.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of the artistic stuff other than, probably the motorsports and maybe some of the marine stuff. But I've got to definitely dig deep and search for that now. So yeah, literally you grew up, you cut your teeth on the desert.
Yeah, I mean, my dad did some short course racing. I remember going to Riverside as a kid. He did the stuff in the Coliseum. I mean, we got pictures of dad jumping through the peristyles and things like that. So,
wow,
he did do a little short course. Actually built a short course truck, and then Riverside kind of went away and things like that. So I think the truck was raced maybe twice, 2-3 times. I know. He was going back to do Crandon at one point. That was always a bucket list race for him, and he was going to make the haul all the way across country. And I can't remember what happened, but it was in between two events, and he'd had a bad event, and the truck, there was something wrong with it, and he just couldn't afford to fix it and haul across country. So he had to skip Crandon the one year he was going to go. But, so I was around short course and that, and obviously I was at a lot of boat races just because my grandpa still liked going to them and things like that as a kid. But yeah, definitely mainly a desert kid, and that's kind of all I knew as far as racing, NASCAR and everything on TV on Sundays. I was kind of there, but it really, it didn't interest me,
Right. Yeah, that's crazy. And now, I mean, you've like from the concept of the star car to running a trophy truck to jumping back in this last year, jumping back in your race car, which did that it, if I'm right, correct me if I'm not, but that was one of Mitchie's old race cars, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that was, the whole UTV thing was funny. Like, if you want the origins of Star Car, Craig Scanlon and Jason DeFucia were the marketing people at Polaris at the time, and I kept going. I was kind of an ambassador and an influencer. They were sponsoring my radio show, and I was doing some appearances for them, and I was running the trophy truck, and I couldn't afford to do that anymore. It's astronomical to run an unlimited trophy truck nowadays. Like, there's just no possible way I could ever afford to do it again. And I kept going to Jason and Craig, I want to race UTVs. They're like, we got plenty of racers. They did. Like, they did. They didn't.
Yeah.
There was no reason to sign me. And they're like, you got to come with something better, Jimmy. You got to come with something better. I was like, and I was like, made an excuse. I was like, guys, I'm going to be in Minnesota. Let's have a meeting. I wasn't going to be in Minnesota. I flew to Minnesota and told them I was going to be there. And so they're like, all right, yeah, we got, we can sit down with you for like 30 minutes this one day and have a meeting. And I was like, all right, I got this great idea. It's going to change Polaris forever. They're like, all right, cool. We're all ears. I was like, okay, great. So I fly back there and at corporate headquarters, I go in and I sit, and Jason and Craig, they go, so what do you got? And I look at them and I go, Polaris Star Car. And they kind of looked at me. I was like, you're going to give me enough money to build a race car, and you're going to give me the car, and you guys are going to fund this. And they kind of look at me. They're like, we don't do that for anybody. I'm like, but we're going to put celebrities in here. We're going to film it, and we're going to tell everybody, how amazing Polaris are. And we're going to get all these celebrities in. We'll have all this content. And Jason and Craig immediately light up like Christmas trees. Yeah. This is genius. This is great. Yes, well, let's do it. And so I couldn't afford to build a new race car, so I got Polaris to build it for me. And that was literally that. So I knew I was going to have to do Star Car for a couple of years, but at the end of Star Car, I was going to have the car. So I raced for 2 years, met some amazing people, shared some awesome experiences with one of my best friends, Jolene Van Vliet. And at the end of it, I got the race car and I had the title to it. And that literally was how I got my Polaris race car, because I couldn't afford to build one. So, but that car, by the time, that was dated, that thing was pretty clapped out. I mean, I'll be honest with you. It was put through the ringer with all the celebrities, and we raced it for a couple of years, and it just wasn't on pace. I mean, it was a pretty decent car. James Hill at IMG did a great job. I mean, and it took some tumbles with these celebrities and things like that, but it was pretty solid. And sold that to some amazing guys in Texas. They had fun for a year, and I don't know where it's at now. But Mitchie's car came up for sale, and people with the whole celebrity thing, they forgot I could race. And that was the problem with Star Car. Like, it was all this media and everything else. And it was like, oh, Jimmy's just the fun having guy. He just goes out there and races. Like, no, I can still race.
Right.
So it's like, Mitchie's car came up for sale, and I called Guthrie, and they had somebody else looking at it. He goes, we'd much rather sell to you. Called Polaris, and Polaris like, yeah, you want to buy that? We'll support you. Absolutely. And Brett Carpenter, Polaris, knew I could still race, and he goes, oh yeah, dude, we'll step our game up. We want you to switch the unlimited class from turbo class. We got nobody in there, and Can-Am's killing it with Isom. And I was like, okay, I can do this. Yeah, let's do this. So sold that car, took that money, bought Mitchie's car. And that year was literally, I was out to prove a point. And we ended up second in the championship by just like a couple points, like 2 points or something. And it was because of a weird rule Best of the Desert had. But I don't know, we had 3 or 4 podiums and a win. And second at Vegas Reno, second at Baja Nevada, won a race. I can't remember. It was a good run. And, then we came back. I had parted ways with Polaris. We ran it this year at Parker just again to kind of, I was like, Parker's my jam. And we went out and got second in class and 6th overall. And it was just one of those, I just needed to remind everybody I can still race. And now, we're going to sell the car and I'm going to build a new one. That car's a generation old now and it's still phenomenal. But that was just kind of, I just needed to remind everybody I can still drive. And honestly, I had to prove a point to myself that I could still drive, and I think sometimes as racers, we have to do that. We get this, and just as people, it's like, I haven't done that in a long time. I gotta do that. That's why people get back on a mountain bike after 15 years, I think sometimes, and things like that. It's got to prove a point. I can still do this,
Yeah. Yeah. I totally understand that. And didn't you run Vegas to Reno this year also?
Yeah. And honestly, I had probably, that was a fun race. And, the unlimited class changed this year because you've got the Pro Rs in there, which,
right.
I mean, I don't have, I've had a bunch of people, ask me what my thoughts are. It's great. Polaris built it, I don't know what class it necessarily should be in, but, you've got 2 races. You've got the Pro R race and unlimited, and then you got the rest of everybody's racing. And I had probably the most fun 400 miles I've had forever. Jamie Campbell started directly in front of me. There was me and there was Matty Wedking right behind me. And the 3 of us for 400 miles ran within a minute of each other. And Nice. It was the most amazing race. Afterwards, we're all calling and texting like, that was great. High fives, giving each other hugs. And we ended up having a small problem. And I don't know what ended up happening with Jamie. And this was all within the last 100 miles of the race. But probably in my course of my career, it was the most fun 400 miles. And we were all friends. We all raced each other clean. It was just literally, we were just driving the living piss out of these cars. And it was so awesome after 400 miles to still be within that same 1 minute that we started with, each other. And, it was so fun. There's times I got around Jamie and then Maddie get around Jamie, and then I have a little hiccup and Maddie get around me. And then we're just literally just all three of us going back and forth for 400 miles. It was awesome.
Oh, that's so rad. I got to pit and chase in uh last year, not this year, 2021 with for Polaris and uh a tire company that um brought in a couple of drivers from Japan to run in the stock class. And we worked with the Romos. And man, that was my first time desert racing. And I get it. Like, I get it. It was, I don't know that I'd ever do it again. Um, Given the opportunity, probably.
We say that, but you would.
Yeah, yeah. It would be like there probably wouldn't even be a hesitation on the phone, but but yeah, man, I finally, to be able to actually dig in and be part of a desert race, and albeit, a stock class race car, but we had similar situation. Those two drivers ran uh, within, a couple of minutes each other the whole race. Um, well, till 4.8 miles from the finish when one tried to pass the other and broke the car. Uh, but it was exciting, it was crazy, and waiting there at the pits, and I fueled both cars at multiple pits, and it was like, how'd you stay up all night? I'm like, how could you not? Like,
Yeah.
like you're on the chase, man. It's like we got to beat the race cars to the pit, and I've got to be ready. And yeah, no, I get it. Watching you talk about the Vegas to Reno this year and your smile and enthusiasm, it just, yeah, I totally understand it, and respect to drive it, because that's a whole nother thing. Um, and for you, I know 400 miles in a race car is probably like an early morning jog for most people, but for a lot of us, it's like, holy cow, that's hero status right there.
Yeah, well, and I've got a little bit lazier in my age. My brother, a lot of the longer races, I'll generally split driving with him. I've soloed down in Baja. I've soloed, Vegas to Reno. Sometimes and even in stock classes, not just unlimited classes. And I used to be super physically fit and running, lifting weights 5 times a week, running every day, things like that. And I don't work out like that anymore. And I can still do 500 miles if I had to, but it's really nice to be able to do 250, 300 miles and then just step out. And my brother's fresh, who's a phenomenal driver in his own right. And he jumps in and then he'll do 200 miles till the finish, and it's actually, I think at times people push themselves where I want to be the person that does this wire to wire. And I actually think sometimes it's a hindrance and they don't realize it, but you get 400 or 500 miles in and you're 8, 9 hours in a race car and there is a drop off. And people don't want to acknowledge that because it's tough, but I think there is, and we've actually choreographed our driver swaps where we can actually do it in like 20 seconds. So amount of time it takes to fuel the car, we can literally have one guy get out, the other one in and be completely belted in and things like that. We've literally worked to choreograph them. So, cause everyone's like, oh, driver swap, it takes too much time. I'm like, not if you work on it. We
Right.
literally spent a day in the shop just buckling in, and he was in, having a step there and literally choreographing our driver swap. I put my hand here, you put your hand here, things like that. So, because we knew how long it took us to fuel, and we're like, we don't want to waste one extra second. So we can literally, anytime during the race, if we're fueling, we can do a driver swap and know that we're not going to lose 1 second at a time.
Wow.
That's impressive.
So, but it took some work to get there, but we're there now, And my cousin, my cousin Bryant, he generally stays in the car, things like that. So it's just literally the driver swap. So,
Wow. That's insane. I mean, but that's what it takes, it's especially now in, I think, any of the UTV classes. I mean, it was, I see all my memories from on Facebook that pop up, from way back, like um, when I first started working with Rob, at Muzzy's in like '08 and stuff like that. And we were supporting the Jagged X crew, and that was before Craig was even racing.
I,
Uh,
I was just talking with Schulers at Dirt Expo. Boy, do they go back. I
yeah,
love Bill and Brandon. I mean, these salt of the earth guys, but yeah, you want to talk about OG UTV guys? Those are your guys. Those are OGs right there. They were racing rhinos when rhinos had no aftermarket.
yeah, for for sure. Yeah, they were building stuff for rhinos, and hopped into yeah, man. I just seeing like I think was it first or second year they tried the 1000 in an 800 and they finished.
Yeah, I remember when they first started racing rhinos, and everybody was looking like, why would you do that to yourself? Like, what is wrong? What is twisted in your brain? Nobody should be racing a rhino for 500 or 1,000 miles. The answer is no. You know, it's somehow like they persevered. I still like I give them credit. You want to talk about one family who literally um kind of helped grow this entire industry. I mean, if there wasn't a Schuler family and Jagged X, UTVs definitely would have still happened. But in the desert race sense, I mean, those guys, they literally, you know what I mean, we owe them a lot for what they did back in the day because they were pioneers, hands down.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with you there. And going back to what you said earlier, just a minute ago, the Schulers, if you know the Schulers, um, something's not right with them. And that's probably why they were racing rhinos to begin with. But I've known those guys for a long time and just love them to death. They've back when I was with Muzzy, they got me a lot of trophies, a lot of pride, a lot of chest slapping, and did a lot of R&D and a lot of help for me in the industry also as I was coming in. So you're right. I mean, anybody that's anywhere involved in the side by side part of desert racing um, really does owe them a gratitude for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't fun when they were doing it. It was a lot of pain.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, so how many Bajas have you? How many 1000s have you ran?
I have actually, this is a funny story. I have actually never raced the Baja 1000.
Really?
No joke. I've done the 500 countless times. 500 is probably my favorite race. I was never, budgets were always small, and the thousands very expensive, but I'm one of those, if I can't do it right, I don't want to do it. And I never thought every time I could have gone to the thousand, I would have just been going to race and not win. And I never thought I was putting myself in a position with my budget and with the amount of crew and things like that. So I never did the thousand. I didn't see the point in going if I didn't think I could do well. And there was no slide on my team. We just didn't have enough people, or I didn't have the budget to do it correctly. So yeah, I mean, I've raced the 500, like I said, a bunch. I love the Baja 500, but I've actually never raced Baja 1000.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
See, something I did not know. Well, there we go. I'm learning stuff all the time. This is awesome. Uh, wow. Yeah. And I know you've had pretty good success on the score side on the as well as of course all the stateside, if you will, desert racing. Did you let me see, did you race were you racing in what was that called when I first started with Muzzy? HDRA? Did you race any of that?
I did not know. I never raced HDRA and its new iteration when Roger started. I never did any HDRA races. My dad raced the original HDRA way back in the day.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a few odds and ends. I've raced she's. I mean, I've raced a little Snore, a little MDR back when MDR existed. I mean, I've done a lot of odds and ends. Whiplash when Whiplash was in Arizona. I've done a lot of that type stuff. But yeah, started out, I did a lot of score, and then that turned into a lot of best of the desert here in the States, just because a lot of my sponsors wanted me to concentrate here. But yeah, I've run a little bit with a lot of organizations, but never did any HDRA.
Nice.
Yeah,
Are
they didn't
you?
stick around long enough. Roger bought Score, and then HDRA went away. That was kind of the thing,
Yeah.
It was there for like 2 years, and it just went up in smoke.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, are you doing Rage this week? Is it Rage at the River this weekend? I
No, I'm
think.
not racing that. My next
Okay.
race will be Parker here. Parker's so early; it's literally we're 3 weeks out from Parker.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it starts like January 4th or 5th, so it's yeah, we're literally right out a month out from Parker. So I'm not, I'll go up to Rage. I'll probably make a day trip. I can be to Laughlin an hour and 40 minutes from Parker. So I'll probably go up there and hang out and stuff like that. But yeah, not racing.
Okay. I was curious. I know that's always a big one. It seems like I've always got something going. I've missed it. This will be my third winter down here, and I've missed it every year.
It's a fun race. It's a good time. Everybody comes out of the woodwork for it. So, yeah, it's definitely a good time.
Yeah, that's rad. So what's next? What do you got going this year? I've seen a bunch of your social media teasers, so I know there's probably not 100% of everything you can tell us. I know you've got the partnership this that developed this year uh, with Kawasaki, which brilliant move on in my opinion, brilliant move on Kawasaki's part. Um, you're a great advocate for any manufacturer, whether it be on the just approachable, real live person level, or you're, I mean, huge, realistically, huge celebrity status in this industry. Um, you're a great representative, so I think Kawasaki did well to jump on the opportunity to get involved with you. Um, I just a suggestion before you get into what's coming. Um, so they do this thing called the Mexican 1000, the Nora
Mhm.
Mexican 1000, and I am pretty sure that a properly built KRX would do pretty well in that. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I definitely need to build a new race car. We've got Guthrie's Mona Lisa that's going to be up for sale. I kind of listed it, but I didn't really push it because it wasn't fully prepped. It's really close, about 95% prepped right now. So I do need to build a new race car this year. Actually, most of my partners want me to do lifestyle stuff. So I'm going to be doing a lot of UTV rallies, trips like that. But I think right out of the gate, I do have working on probably racing a car for somebody else this year. So I actually working on something like that. So I really can't disclose any of that yet, but I guess projects I can talk about. Probably in the next month to 2 months, I've got a signature beer that's launching with Belching Beaver. Signed a contract with them. So I've been dealing with them, and it's literally a beer tailor made to me. So we'll have first tasting at Parker, and then it'll be available nationally by the end of February. We're gonna have a rollout of kind of launch parties. So we'll have one in Parker, that's kind of a Parker Havasu. We'll have one in Oceanside at one of their headquarters. We'll have one in Prescott, Arizona, because I half live up there, and then probably something in Vegas around, tied in with the Mint. And then probably one of my most exciting ones is I've been doing a lot with the Whiskey A Go Go and our good friend
Mhm.
BC Bot. I fell in love with that place, most iconic music venue in the world. So I fell in love with it. He's good friends with the owner. BC's playing the end of January there, so we're kind of working on an off-road takeover. My beer will be on tap at the Whiskey A Go Go at the end of January, but we're working on a new KRX build, and it's kind of a unicorn car. I'll disclose details because people already kind of have an idea, but taking a 4-seat KRX, which are hard to get right now in their own right.
Yeah.
I've got a supercharger we're putting on it. It's already got the supercharger on it, so it bumps the horsepower up actually more than a turbo razor. Got a crazy wild carbon fiber titanium one of a kind exhaust that Kraftwerks built for it. Makes this thing sound like a trophy truck. It's got HCR long travel on it. Been working with Pro Armor. We're gonna have some of the first seats for a KRX for like the rear and stuff like that. It's going to have custom bases. Obviously, we've got some prototype parts from Rugged Radio in there with some new mounts. It's going to be a wild build, but the biggest thing is like if you remember the Kawasaki dirt bikes from like the early 90s and they were like that green and purple, like that color, neon color block, where literally the whole livery is going to be a neon color block, like rock and roll livery from the late 80s, early 90s. And so
Yes.
that's literally, we're working on this rollout video with Mad Media. It's going to be full on rock and roll. That's why the Whiskey A Go-Go's tied in. And so it's going to be a wild, one of a kind KRX. I'm really excited about this build. And so that's what I'm kind of working on right now. So I'm not doing a lot of traveling because we're trying to get this thing buttoned up, so we can do some filming in January and kind of have a rollout. So it will be, it will be awesome when it gets done. And we're definitely playing up to kind of Kawasaki's history and things like that, because they've got such a rich history and they did some wild stuff. I mean, I've got a Super Chicken that I'm doing a retro on and stuff like that. My good friend Bobby Kearns that works for Kawasaki, he's actually got it at Kawasaki headquarters right now and he's tuning on it. And like, it's just amazing. And this is no slight on any other power sports manufacturers because they all have history in their own right. Honda's got amazing history,
Yeah.
and things like that. I mean, I look at Polaris and you look at what they've done with snowmobiles and things like that. Like, but Kawasaki, like their race history, things like that. If you've ever been to their headquarters, they have a museum there and it's always evolving the vehicles they have in there. And it's so much fun for me to be able to tap into these weird old vehicles that Kawasaki made and things like that and just tap into that history. So it's like, that's definitely, one of the fun things about this. And so this KRX build, that's kind of where we're going. And then that'll be on display at events and I'll be using it like crazy. And it's not going to be a trailer queen. I will have that thing in the rocks at Sand Hollow. Like it's my goal was to build something where, Kawasaki's generally don't go to Glamis because they're naturally aspirated, and
Right.
you
Right.
need the power. So I built something where I want to pull up at Oldsmobile Hill and we go, oh, look at that cow. And then just go and mob past everybody. So that's what we're working on. And it'll be a fun project. I'm really excited with the way things turned out. All my partners have been so supportive in this last year. It's been a transition year. It's just, I'm really fortunate to be surrounded by companies and I pitched crazy ideas like taking a Kawasaki to the Whiskey A Go-Go and everybody's like, yeah, let's do this. Can I come? And BC Bot's like, dude, tickets for everybody. Off-road, just come. Let's go.
Yeah.
And BC's another guy. He's been a friend. It's funny. BC and I have known each other for 7-8 years and we've got pretty close the last probably 6 months. But, he's a guy that behind the scenes has done so much for off-road and things like that, and people don't realize it because he's not that guy. But, he's, early 2000s. I mean, his band Head P was one of the most iconic rock bands in the world at the time. And, and he kind of got burnt out on it. I'm just, as a friend, so excited to be able to see this side of BC playing music again and things like that, because, he kind of shelved that for a while. And like, he was telling me this, like the Whiskey A Go-Go thing, he and I went there, what was it, 2-3 weeks ago. I had to go and take some measurements. BC like, dude, I'll meet you. Let's just go hang out at the Whiskey for a night, go to the Rainbow and have dinner and stuff like that. So BC and I went and listened to music and stuff. But just to see, he goes, I played the Whiskey when I was early in my career. He goes, I never thought I'd be coming back here and playing again. He goes, I thought that was a part of me that was in the past. And he goes, it's so surreal for him to actually be going back to the Whiskey A Go-Go and playing on stage. And I know he's going to, they've got some big announcements in regards to that coming up. And, I know he's going to try as it gets closer to get all his friends and everybody in the industry out. But it's kind of cool as a friend to be able to see that side of him come out, because I heard the stories, but I never saw, now I'm seeing it. And I'm like, holy crap, man, these guys are awesome. BC's a badass.
Yeah, I've known BC, I think probably pushing about 10 years, 12 years, I guess now.
Yeah.
And we, like yourself, we just hit it off for whatever reason, good, bad, or indifferent. We just hit it off, and man, the dude's got it on top of everything else. He's humble. He's got a huge heart,
Huge.
and my wife and I, in October of 2020, when we were heading down here, she was heading down here in my RV, and I was actually working UTV Worlds and then um, Sand Sports in Scottsdale, or half of Sand Sports, whatever, however you want to qualify what happened there. Um, and I was with Polaris.
Was it even half? Was it like a quarter of Sand
A
Sports?
quarter. It felt like half. But it was myself and Dave Butts doing the setup and 7 semis worth of stuff. It felt like a whole show. Um, but we did it. It's what we do, you know. But and my RV broke down. My wife and I planned on living in the RV for a couple of years and staying first 6 months or so in Havasu, and my RV broke down, and she had to have it towed back, and the towing company damaged it severely. And I'm I was supposed to be in a hotel, and between Worlds and Sand Sports, and BC's like, man, what are you doing there? Come stay at my house. So I came over and stayed at his place. And then when my RV broke down, I'm like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do, I guess. He goes, dude, just, I'm not going to be at my place. Stay at my place. Well, 4 months later, I'm leaving his place and moving into his dad's old place, which to me is, there again, kind of sacred and holy ground, if you will. And so, yeah, man, it's great. He played our homeowners' Fourth of July appreciation party. It was their first public appearance with breaking in a sequence. I just saw him at that was kind of my cap to SEMA, and boy, the dude just knows how he got like. I'm not the guy going, hey, I need VIP. I'm the guy that bought my own early entrance tickets,
Yeah.
because I want to support him. And he was just he was so grateful that we were there, and he's got the Viking, backstage passes, and I'm like, I don't need to go backstage. I just want to go outside and catch some air and come back in. But yeah, just seeing him play and seeing some of this stuff and talking to him, you know, 2 or 3 times a week and about what's coming and stuff like that. I, we don't want to make this is supposed to be about Jim Beaver, but yeah, it's BC is a great guy. And actually, we're going to have him on either. We're trying to figure out what's going to be best, either right before or right after the Whiskey A Go Go show.
Yeah, I would say right after. Yeah, I would say right after because he's gonna have some stories.
Oh yeah,
I would that one I would say definitely wait till after.
yeah, and there's someone again like yourself with 3 generations of motorsports history and whatnot. There's someone else that you would never like. He's a drummer for Bias. He's a drummer for Breaking Benjamin. He was founding member drummer for Head PE. He's a rock star. Okay, whatever. But the guy has motorsports roots
Oh
as
yeah, he loves
just,
sim racing too.
and he's good at it.
Yeah, he's good at it. So I think we've got our TV tapings. We do our sim racing, our World Cup with the with that one. We bring in all the celebrities and stuff like that. And so
Yeah.
BC's actually going to come in, and he's going to be one of the drivers, and we'll get him. And I think we're going to have Pastrana always does it for us, and Greg Biffle and some of those guys. So I think he's going to come in, and then yeah, when I was in Hollywood with him, he goes, "Hey, let's go out to dinner at the Rainbow." He's like, "Oh, by the way, our friend's coming." I was like, all right, cool. We show up and it's Sid from Slipknot. I'm like,
Saw that photo you posted.
I was like,
oh, yeah.
I was like, how the hell am I out to dinner with Sid from Slipknot? But I think Sid's gonna come in and do our World Cup. So it'll be a fun taping. I think we're taping and we'll live stream it on January 11th as a tentative date, and then I don't know when it'll air on CBS, but that'll be a fun one. But yeah, he's good. I've raced UTVs against him. He's actually a phenomenal wheelman. People
Yes.
don't realize that.
Yeah, and he's come by it naturally. I've managed to round up as his stepmom was moving out, we were moving in. Um, I was helping and managed to stumble across a plethora of newspaper clippings from his dad's early days, and I it was, man, I'm probably sad. I didn't even know. It was like a time warp for me. I just sat there and read and read and read. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. Wow, I didn't know that. So, it's kind of like reading the Jim Beaver story here on Google. Um, it's like,
I haven't Googled myself. So I actually need to do that and see what the hell pops up. Half of it normally, like I get tagged and stuff because there's an actor named Jim Beaver who's in
yes.
Deadwood, and he's actually become a very good friend of mine because he gets tagged in stuff racing related, and I get tagged in stuff Hollywood related. And so he and I actually had him on my show. And we sat down and talked for 2 hours one time, and super nice guy. Like we've actually become friends. But you pull up Jim Beaver, and you never quite know what's going to pop up. It's either his stuff or my stuff. Funny thing was, he did a movie, and I had a buddy screenshot it, and I went and looked, and it was on Apple, like Apple, whatever it is, Apple TV.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in the iTunes store or something, or some major motion picture he did. And the production studio screwed up, and here it is, like it's this major movie with like Matthew McConaughey and all this, and you look at the pictures on the Apple TV, and my headshot's next to all these celebrities, and the production studio mixed up the wrong Jim Beaver headshot, and so I texted him and I was like, "Am I getting royalties for this?" And he started laughing. He goes, "No," he goes, "That's probably why they've been slow." He goes, "They're probably sending to you instead." But yeah, they put my headshot on Apple TV. I need to dig up the picture and I'll text it to you guys. But it was hilarious. I was like, I never did that movie, but. I was like, even when Hollywood's mixing us up, we've got a problem, I guess.
It's a literal fake it till you make it moment.
Yeah, that was it. I just started laughing. I'm like, all right, this is cool. I've been in the movies.
Oh, that's sick. That is funny. That's the first thing that came up was the actor, and I actually ended up putting in Jim Beaver Racing,
Yeah.
and then it was like, do you want to see more? Do you want to see more? Do you want to see more? So it's yeah, and I mean, I've been blessed enough to know you for I don't know how many years now, and I'm still learning about you and your background. Moving forward, I'm constantly watching what you're doing, and one thing that really hit me, and I know you and I talked about this, I think at the Sand Sports at the maybe at the Cowie whatever that was
Yeah,
VIP
their
party
party, their industry party they throw every year.
yeah. But you had made a post about reinventing yourself without reinventing yourself, basically, and getting back to your roots. And man, that really, and I think I told you at the time, it really hit home, and I found it very insightful. And it's probably part of the inspiration. I've had people for years tell me, dude, you have so many stories, so many people, you should do a podcast. And I think when that reading through that post, I have it actually screenshotted and saved in my inspirational folder. Really touched me for whatever reason, timing right, wording right, but it prompted me to get going on this and actually do something. I kept saying, I'll do it at some point. Maybe I will, maybe. And then I'm like, it doesn't matter. I mean, Jim completely reinvented himself without reinventing himself, and he's huge. He's like,
I think the biggest thing with this industry is anybody that's been in it for as long as we have. It's a grueling industry. I mean, and you travel just as much, if not more than me, and after 10 years of doing radio and being on the road and things like that, like in the last year, I think this show I did for Pro Armor at Sand Sports was my last show I did last year. I think I took literally like 3 months off. People don't realize that. And everything we were airing nationally was just re-airs. And I guess when you've got 10 years worth of archives, it's pretty easy to come up with re-airs. But I was burnt out, and I was done. I was ready to be done. And talk with some sponsors and things like that. I just wasn't having fun doing it anymore, and I was burnt out. There's a lot of reasons for it, things like that. But I was tired of being on the road and things like that. And, I kind of sat back. I was like, what do I want to do with this show moving forward? We've had all the success and everything else, and I was just burnt out. And this year it was like, all right, I'm going to do this for me, and I'm going to do things the way I want. It's not necessarily the format that it was before. The format's completely changed. But I'm having so much fun interviewing people and doing radio again and having these conversations, going to event, doing it on site and meeting with people. It's kind of re-energized me, but I had to get selfish for once and go, I need to do this for me now. You know what I mean? And not what everybody else wants. What do I want? And all my sponsors, all my supporters have been phenomenal about it. And, it's working out great. I mean, the numbers are higher than they have ever been. And it's been phenomenal, but it just, I think at some point, and this is just, I know people talk now openly about mental health, things like that, but this industry, I mean, people, you really need to at some point step back and take a deep breath, because you can get sucked into the vortex. And it's not just this industry, it's any industry. But I think sometimes we get so caught up in, I got to get to that next event, or I can't miss this, or I got to be on this call. I got to send this email. And, it's 2 a.m, you're answering emails. And why? It could wait till 8 a.m. It's not going to make a difference. And I think literally mentally, I think everybody in this industry needs to stop once in a while and just reboot, even if it's just taking a day off, because when was the last time you took a day off, Lauren? I mean, literally, most people in the industry be like, oh, it's been 10 years since I've taken a day off. And I'm that guy, but I think once in a while, taking a day off, it's not bad, and it'll all be there when you get back the next day, and I think that's just the biggest thing I had to learn. And, it's tough, but I was just burnt out and, built all this, and I was just ready to be done with it. And now I'm enjoying it, but I had to do something for me. And, and it's been great. It really has.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's like I totally agree with you on all that. The travel's grueling. You have to be 100% passionate and committed to do what we do and we do different things, but in essence, for the travel and the motorsports and all that, for as long as we have, you definitely have to have the passion. And every once in a while, I get that way myself. When you said when was the last time you took a day off? I said to myself, oh, well, Saturday. But I actually got up and wrote like 3 emails and then did nothing the rest of the day, and did the parade of lights and the Havasu parade of lights, which was rad.
Your pictures were phenomenal, by the way. I need to go up to Havasu sometime in the next week or two just to see the London Bridge, because it looks beautiful.
Oh yeah, since they've done the LED lighting upgrade just before Christmas last year, it's incredible job that they do, and the English Village is just absolutely gorgeous. And thank you for the compliment. But Viking says I got to get better about saying thank you when people say something nice. But yeah, no, there's something to be said for Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra. It does take a good picture. Even a monkey can use it, obviously. But yeah, they do such a nice job. You got to come up. I'm going to be gone this weekend. I've got to do Red Bull Sand Scramble this weekend. I'm out tomorrow. And then, but we'll get together, have dinner, check out the village, and if we could get a day like today, I might even pop the boat in the water.
Yeah, it's still been actually quite warm, and Parker and Havasu pretty much have identical weather. So,
yeah.
I do have a question for Cole, because you're giving the stats earlier. My Race Desert 21 years. How deep are you on Race Desert with your account?
I'm 10 years, but I creeped for a while until I started throwing my own activity on there.
I actually remember Race Desert before this version of the forum. So the original forum on Race Desert was literally like a contact form, and it posted whatever you said below it. And so literally the original forum on Race Desert, you'd have to scroll down like the page, but it was literally like a contact form. You put comment, name, and then yeah, it was like name and then title or comment, you know what I mean? And you could, and it would post it, and you'd have to scroll down like all, at that point they can get a couple hundred posts a day, and you'd have to scroll through all the posts on the, it was literally like a comment
Oh
form
my
filled
gosh.
out. So that was the original form on Race Desert. So I go back to that, and I'm like, that was interesting. So
See, maybe they need a week where they go back to that because maybe it
oh
would calm
gosh.
everybody down if you have to actually think before you post, you know?
I love that site. It's been a big part of my life forever. I go on and I read daily. Probably every morning I log in and read. Obviously it's actually one of the forums that's still going. That's actually amazing because forums have just died off.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I think some people are a little too passionate there and it scares everybody else off. It's like you go in and you just get annihilated. I'm like, can we just have a real conversation here? Why do we always have to get so crazy and cutthroat? And it's like, sometimes I think people are just a little too out there on that site,
Yeah, people look to share their knowledge at any chance they get.
Yeah.
So
And if you don't agree with their knowledge, oh man, they let you know.
you're in for it. Yeah, because I keep looking for you because you're our Parker master, so I need you to run that thread. You got to be the most knowledgeable guy on there about that race.
Probably. Well, and I mean, me and my cousin Bryant, he's pretty in the know on a lot of it too, so when he posts, but yeah, I've chimed in with a couple of odds and ends and things like that, but we'll see. I think it's actually going to be one of the best Parkers in years. I know a lot of people aren't stoked on the combine. It needed to happen. The car and truck race was dead. The UTV race was the big one, and now combining them, and I think one big weekend. Vendors did want to have to come twice to Parker. Now the vendors can come once. I think we'll get more vendors than we ever did. I truly think this Parker is probably going to be one of the better ones in the last 5, 6, 7 years.
That's awesome to hear. That's huge.
Yeah. And, I think just looking in the buzz around town, things like that, I think it'll be good.
And that is, what do you say, January 5th weekend?
I think contingency is Thursday the 5th. Qualifying is Friday the 6th. UTVs are Saturday the 7th, and then trophy trucks, buggies, everybody else are on Sunday. So, yeah,
Wow.
same. I guess same weekend as A1. Unfortunately,
Yeah. It's funny because there's a couple of guys. We have this group, and you got to come up here one of these mornings, but we have this group that we all have coffee at this little dive bar in the mornings. Because I live on the reservation side of Lake Havasu City. So I technically, I guess, California side, reservation side, whatever you want to call it. There's this little tiny dive bar, and we have this group that actually BC introduced me to, and I went there a couple times with him and his dad. They call it the Liars Club, and we meet for coffee, and those guys hit it hard, like 6 days a week, and I'm more like 4 days, 5 days a week. I do like my coffee, but sometimes Saturdays, Sundays, I got to do some other stuff. But there's two or three of those guys that grew up in this area and grew up on the landing side, even that talk about racing Parker on dirt bikes all the time. They grew up doing that, and they still go down there. And so it's such, for this area, it's such an iconic race, and really like a national treasure,
Yeah, there's a lot of history. I mean, you go back the whole California side, Dam 500, Mickey Thompson, kind of founding everything. Like, there's some cool stuff. There's some awesome trails. I love going out there. I mean, I'm fortunate. I'm out there in the wintertime camping at least twice a month on weekends. 10-minute drive, and we've got the RV and KRX and the KX dirt bike, and just have a good time. Literally go out there Friday evening and camp, and then Sunday mid-afternoon come back into town. And it's just spend 2 nights out there and run trails and just drink beer and have campfire. And got a group of people from Parker that all do it, and it's I mean, it's very fortunate. It's like I'll be out there New Year's next time I'm going out. New Year's is bonkers. It's like Glamis out there. It's wild.
Wow.
Yeah, Parker at New Year's it's pretty nuts.
I didn't know that. I'll
Yeah.
make a note to like probably stay away.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, there's certain weekends too, like the Parker Four Wheelers, Rodney Hayes. They literally will build a stage out there and hire a band to come out and play in the middle of the desert and things like that. Like it's yeah,
Oh, that's awesome.
it's awesome.
That
Yeah. Well, I
sounds
know
like a great
Schuler's. I was
time.
just talking to Brandon last week in a Dirt Expo. They're coming out to Parker for New Year's. So
That's cool. Well, when you see him, if I don't see him before, when you see him, just give him a big old Mad Dog hug from me. I miss seeing. I haven't seen those guys in probably pushing a year or so,
really,
and yeah,
can't believe with all the events you're at, you haven't run into him. That's actually surprising to me.
it's I missed Worlds this year, and so it would have been probably Worlds last year would have been the last time I saw him.
Okay.
So yeah, it's like a lot of the stuff that I've been at recently, has been there's been a lot of bike stuff, and I didn't get to see them at Super Show. I believe they were there, but I got to see you, um, and anybody that came by the booth, I got to see, but I was have very little time, as you know, to get out and walk around
Sand
and
Sports has become a crazy show. That's just to me. I mean, I know it's our SEMA. Everybody says that show, the way it's blown up. I mean, it's hard to see people. It's kind of like SEMA. I mean, you have to almost have a schedule and things like that. It's just I mean, you hate to say they're outgrowing where it's at. 'Cause there is some more room still, but man, it's got big.
yeah, yeah, it was huge this year. And somebody said, I can't remember. It seemed like one of the employees said they put like 200,000 through on Saturday.
I wouldn't doubt it. It's crazy as everybody's buying too. Like
Yeah.
you see people with like the carts and the wheel, like the Home Depot carts with like seats stacked up and roll cages and bumpers. And I'm like, holy crap! People are just bringing wads of hundreds and just it's wild the amount of stuff people are buying.
Yeah, it really is. As a matter of fact, I know somebody. There's somebody that happens to be on this podcast right now that saved up all year
Yeah,
for.
it was one of the first shows I haven't had to work, so I came to play.
Uh, saved
Yeah.
up all your. Yeah,
Uh,
only other place I see that is the off-road swap meet, Kurt Liddick's off-road swap meet every year, where people are just literally wheelbarrowing stuff out.
oh yeah,
You
that's
know,
even crazier. Yeah,
Okay. I
that's
love
a
that because I
dogfight.
make 15 grand in cash every time I go. It's like people will buy just about anything there. It's wild. Yeah, we'll be going through the shop. That's junk. Nah, we'll just take it. We'll throw it. Somebody will buy it, and it gets
And
sold.
they do.
That's awesome. Oh man. Well, we should probably wrap up. Let you get on with your evening, Jim. Thank you so much. We really appreciate. Oh, before we go, your '90s Kawasaki neon colors is 1,000% win-win. Cole Cole actually won a championship on a '90s KX 500 um, the year before Yamaha did him dirty and he broke his back. Not that I hate Yamaha. I do not hate Yamaha.
But
Um,
yep, 1995 KX 500.
yeah,
That thing was a beast. So when you said your car livery is going to be in honor of that, both of our faces lit up. I mean, I'm so excited.
Yeah, and it's one thing that's great. Like Kawasaki is a very conservative company. They're amazing. And they've got that history and they protect it and things like that. But it's like with me, they've given me a lot of rope, and the rope they've given me has always done right by them, at least through this year. And
yeah,
so, so they're letting me do things that maybe they wouldn't as a company do, but they're like, they can appreciate what I'm doing. You know what I mean? It's like the super chicken thing. Like it's been a lot of fun. I'm very fortunate. I mean, I was like a giddy kid. I got a message about a week ago. I needed to get some shirts or something made for this next year. And they're like Red Bull. They're very highly protective of their logo. You
yeah.
just don't print Kawasaki logos on things. There's a lot of companies where people just slap logos on and they don't really care. Kawasaki's very protective. And so I needed to get some appearance shirts made up for this next year. And Kawasaki gave me permission to use the logo on everything, so it's like these green themed Impact's doing these cool crew shirts, and they're actually really turning out amazing. But it was like I got permission to use the Kawasaki logo, and I was just like a kid in a candy store. I was like, all right, I made it. They let me use the logo. And obviously they've got to vet everything and make sure it's done right, but it was just them saying, yeah, you can print our logo on your stuff. I was like, yes.
Yeah, that's rad. I have some vintage Team Green stuff that I earned it back in the day, and I will never let it go. I have some stuff that's in storage that I had gotten from Rob Muzzy from when he was cleaning out the race shop, and it had that neon purple, pink, green with the black. And I can't tell you how many times I pitched doing a car that color, a custom car that color for Rob out of all the whatever 10 custom cars I built for him while I was there. And he was always like, nobody likes it. Nobody likes it. I don't want a car that color. And, at one point we were going to build a Terex 4 in conjunction with Kawasaki and some of the guys at Lincoln, and just present it to Rob and do it in those old like 92, 93 colors.
Yeah.
But things happened, and of course the business closed. He closed up and retired, and that's one of those round to it things, and just never got round to it in time. So but I am a huge fan of those colors. So I am so excited to see that car, dude. I'm more excited now than I was before.
It's out of the box for, I mean, I grew up in that era though. Like that was me. Yeah. I was born in 80. You know what I mean? So I like as a kid watching on TV, and I'm just everything. I mean, I had the big Oakley, the blades or whatever. I mean, that was my era, as a kid. That's what I grew up. It was always neon, and I keep telling people, I'm like, somebody needs to buy the licensing for the hypercolor shirts. And I was like, I want to bring hypercolor shirts back. The only problem with those is when you had the armpit sweat, it would change colors of the armpits. But I was like, what happened to hypercolor shirts? I'm like, somebody needs to bring those back. But that was my era. So it's like exciting. I mean, like the arms and the cage are all back from powder and the bumper. And it's like, the cage and the bumper, like this illusion violet's got like a pearlescent to it, and then all the arms are the illusion like Kawasaki green, and it's got a pearlescent to it. So it's gonna be wild. I'm excited. I don't know what we're gonna do with the wrap. I'm sure it's gonna be like some metallic and like it's gonna be wild. But I'm having fun with it. I've done so many builds, and this one I'm probably the most excited about that I've ever done. So and Craftworks, I don't know if you guys are familiar with them. They're based out of Norco. That company, I will tell you, in the UTV and power sports space, in the next 12 to 18 months, people don't realize, but their parent company Skunk 2 has been around for 25 years. And they were involved in the import drag scene and things like that. I mean, they have their owner Dave's a huge Formula One guy, and I met him, and they're applying stuff that they used in professional drag racing and things like this, and they're applying it to UTVs. And they were telling me that they see the UTV market like they saw the import drag scene in the early 90s. And they go, as big as UTVs got, they're like, we don't even think it's touching the tip of the iceberg yet.
Wow.
And so I think their company, something like in the next like 24 months, 80% of their new product offerings are coming in the UTV space. It's not just Kawasaki. They're doing stuff for Yamaha, for Honda, for Polaris, for Can-Am, but the performance stuff they're doing is like another level of performance. It's actually pretty wild because they have such a history, and it's just crazy to see. I'm in there, and they've got a Dodge Hellcat, Challenger Hellcat. They've got a Shelby Mustang, and they've got a Yamaha, all on dynos. The Yamaha, I call them XYZ or whatever. But they've got those all three on dynos side by side. I'm like, when was the last time you saw a Shelby, a Hellcat, and a Yamaha on dynos next to each other? I'm like, it's just like, to me it was wild, but I'm like, they're literally, it's going to be cool to see what comes out of them. Like if you're ever in the area, and they're super cool, they love to have people stop by, but they've got some really rad stuff. This exhaust they gave me, I mean, it's a titanium and carbon fiber exhaust that looks like it's off a Formula One car. And
Nice.
I'm like, this is for a UTV. This does not look like anything I've ever seen for a UTV before. And it's pretty cool, and it's not like that simulated carbon fiber. I mean, it's legitimate carbon fiber, and it looks like something that would be on a factory supercross bike or something like that. And it's actually pretty cool, the stuff they're pumping out. So and they're just one company. I mean, there's so many that are doing that stuff for the UTV space that we don't even know about right now, and it's really exciting to be in the side by side world, because I think with a Pro R coming out and what Polaris is doing with that, and with all these other companies, like I think it's gonna be wild to see the creations that are coming in the next year or so.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. Everybody just keeps
Yeah.
pushing the pushing the bar up, really. You know, Polaris has dropped the Pro R, so now Can-Am's going to drop
Yeah,
something.
Can-Am's got something we don't even know about coming, and I've heard it's around 250 horse, so
Yeah,
it's
and then Polaris is, inevitably it's either the Turbo Pro R or the Supercharged Pro R. I'm
well,
I'm just waiting for the Supercharged KRX with the H2RR uh, H2RR package in it. Um,
well, and I mean, we didn't even talk, but I've spent some time in Robbie Gordon's cars, and I've
yeah,
told everybody, if he's going to get them to market, and I know whatever, there's been delays, but the time I spent, in one out in the desert, I mean, I've never experienced that in a UTV. We were doing trophy truck level stuff in a UTV. And I
yeah.
looked at Robbie, I'm like, what did you have done to it? He goes, this is a production car, Jimmy. And I go, I was like, it blew my mind. So people can say whatever they want. I've told everybody I know with a pre-order for a speed UTV, if you wait and you get your car, you will not be disappointed. I have no idea when you will get your car, but when you do get your car, you will not be disappointed.
I just had this discussion with a friend of mine the other day, and it was like, well, I don't know. I said, it's coming. I mean, I've seen no less than 10 cars with VINs and EPA stickers. So they are coming off assembly. I know there's some hangups and whatnot, but it's coming. And I really firmly believe, from talking to Robbie and Todd and some of the engineers that I've been able to meet, um, I really believe it's going to be a good car when it comes out. You know,
And he knows he hasn't delayed this long to produce something, to put something out there that's going to be subpar. It'll be
right?
right, and Robbie, I mean, his reputation, his entire career is on the line with this.
I agree.
And Robbie, he does right by people, and so I really, like I said, spending the time in those cars that I have, they are phenomenal. They will do things probably that normal people shouldn't be doing. Let's put it that way. Like they're that impressive. So I tell everybody, hang tight. When you get your car, you're not going to be disappointed. Robbie will deliver.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's I haven't got to drive one yet. Kicker has a partnership with them, and hopefully at some point, I will be hauling one around the country and running it from from my driveway down through the desert south to see my buddy Jim Beaver and Parker.
Anytime you want. I actually need to get up there and go to the bunker bar. I've never been to the bunker bar up there outside of Havasu. So I want to make that this winter. I want to do that.
Well, hit me up, because I haven't been either, and neither's the Viking. So maybe we can put something like that together at some
Yeah,
point.
well, let's definitely pick a weekend after New Year's, sometime January or February, and we'll have to compare schedules, but let's definitely
Yeah,
plan on it, because I think bunker bar would be a blast.
yeah, for sure, for sure. So, well, I've run way long. I didn't mean to keep you this long, Jim. Um, your partners, I know you've got a lot of partners, and you need to definitely thank them, and I thank them for helping you to be continuing in what you're doing because I'm gleaning information from you all the time, and I appreciate that. So let's get to JB15 Racing and your partners.
Well, obviously we got Kawasaki and General Tire, Vision Wheel, some of my big supporters. Rigid Industries been with me forever. GSP XTV axles make some phenomenal stock replacement axles for UTVs. Side by side, we've got HCR, Pro Armor, Craftworks, Rugged Radios, Impact, Dirtfish, Gibson. My good friends at Clean Freak make these amazing body wipes for anybody out in the dirt. They're actually really awesome. And then new company, Belching Beaver, got a new signature beer coming out very soon. So definitely I will let you guys know when that comes out. But we've been working on it and I'm excited. It's kind of fun to build a craft beer like to my specifications. I didn't even know you could do that, but somehow everything I told them they did. And so I'm really excited about it.
Wow, that's super cool. I saw Cole's eyes get like, you know, dinner plates when you said I'm doing my own beer.
What I told them when we sat in the owners of Belching Beaver, true story. He's a massive off-road guy. And he's got, I think he's got a couple of UTVs and he goes out all the time, things like that. That's why you've seen their stuff pop up, the Cal 300 and Mint 400 and things like that. But I told him, I said, I love the river when it's 120. And I said, I love the desert when it's 20. And I said, I need a beer that I can drink in both. And I said, I like a little flavor. I said, but I said, we can't go heavy because when it's 120, nobody wants a heavy beer. I was like, that's a wintertime beer. And I said, but you know what I mean? I said, I don't want to go super light either. And so it's an IPA, but it's a very, very, very light IPA. I love session IPAs, and this is like a very, very light session IPA. It's like I tell people, I'm like, if Coors Light made an IPA, that's what this is. It's like a Coors Light IPA with a splash of citrus because I like a little bit of citrus and I like hefts and things like that. So it's a very light IPA with a splash of citrus, and it's not real hoppy or it's just a really smooth beer. And it's something, if you're around the campfire, you can drink. And if it's 120, you can still drink 2 or 3 because you wouldn't do that with a normal IPA when it's 120. And this is very drinkable, so you can. So yeah, I'm excited. I've never tasted anything like it, and it's very, very smooth. So yeah, it's well, hopefully everybody else likes it too.
Yeah, that's super cool. And for somebody that's like been quote unquote kicking back and relaxing, man, you sure got a lot of irons in the fire.
Fun projects. The thing is these projects are for me, like the build and the Whiskey a Go-Go. This is stuff I want to do. I love music. I absolutely love music. I love live music, and so it's like, I love that era. It's like, I don't know. I'm having a whole hell of a lot of fun. I can't complain. And yeah, it's fun, and this year Kawasaki just very fortunate, they make dirt bikes, they make jet skis, and they make UTVs, everything I love doing, and I get to do it all. And they just give me units to go and test, and then they take them back and we have fun. And it's like, it's been a blast, and to be surrounded by a company that literally checks all the boxes for me and I check them all for them. And it's been very good. At the end of last year, I really was scared. And, and after Polaris and I parted ways and things like that, I didn't know what was next or where things were going to go. And somehow it came out all right. You know what I mean? And just really, really fortunate, and I make a living at this, and I'm scared every year that I'm not going to have a job the next year. It's just one of those, when you work freelance in this industry and things like that, you don't know, and COVID was scary for all of us and things like that,
man.
And just really fortunate to have some amazing companies and some amazing friends and people who give referrals and, and things like that. And just very, very lucky to live the life I do, for sure.
Yeah, we're very lucky to have you on here. And I'm very blessed to call you my friend, above everything else. It's like, yeah, he's this huge celebrity, but he's Jimmy, right? He's Jim
See, and
Beaver.
I don't see myself as a celebrity in the least. So it's just one of those. I have celebrity people that I consider friends, but I am definitely not one of them.
Well, it really is cool, and I always appreciate your smile, your positive approach. I think we're a lot the same that way, where it's always persevere in the positive.
Yeah.
Um, I I totally feel you about 2020 was a real kick in the crotch, and on that freelance stuff, like you said, you don't know, you just persevere in faith, and we all stick together, and
Yeah.
we keep supporting each other no matter what, and here we are, episode 16 of Along for the Ride. And I've got nationally syndicated 21-year member of Race Desert. Um, and one
I need to
of
put that on the resume. 21-year member of Race Desert. I'm going to put that in my marketing deck.
and
Beautiful. That's flattering.
and one of Cole's heroes. I specifically told Cole ahead of time, you are not allowed to fanboy. You have to be a
Okay.
real person.
So far, so good, I think, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
we'll see.
I will tell you, when you get to episode 116, I want to be your guest for episode 116.
Write that down, Cole.
Perfect.
Yeah, literally, I
116.
want to be 116.
All
If
right.
I'm number 16, I got to be 116 also.
I love it.
Well, and it's encouraging too, because I what you said earlier really really hit me, with keep going, keep doing it, just keep putting content,
You
because
got to.
we're not slaying dragons over here, but we're having a hell of a lot of fun, and for me, the big thing, it's not even really about my stories. I mean, I've had some pretty good adventures um over, just in this last year, since we started doing this, but it's about getting other people's stories out. And every anybody can Google Jim Beaver Racing and get what's there. But, there's some of us that want to know, where did all that start? How did we get to where we're at, and that's what gets me. It's like, and the excitement. I just love the excitement in your voice when we're talking about this stuff and the new car and stuff. So, and
I'll give you two stats on getting things started. My very first ever episode only got 27 listeners. So I had 27 my first episode, and I will tell you a stat on podcasting. I believe it's something like 90% of shows never get to 100 listeners an episode. So if you can ever get to 100 listeners, and I don't know what your listenership is, but if you ever get to 100 listeners an episode, know that you were in the top 10% of all podcasts.
wow. Well,
Because
that's
people see these crazy Joe Rogan numbers and think,
yeah.
oh my gosh, this is huge. He is such a small percentage. And so I tell people, I'm like, if you get to 100 listeners, just 100 listeners an episode, you're better than 90% of all podcasts in the world. You're in the top 10% if you can get to 100 listeners an episode. And I'm like, that number is achievable for most people. If you push hard enough, 100 listeners an episode is definitely achievable. So
that's that's definitely something to shoot for. We're not there yet, but we've got some episodes that are on the top side of 50 already. So, at 16, I guess I'll take that. I'm happy with that. And the big thing is to have fun,
yeah,
you know.
absolutely. Make it an outlet. That's what I tell everybody. I'm like, if you're not having fun, don't. Everybody's like worried about advertising. I'm like, don't worry about that. Just do it for a year. And I was like, at some point, the advertisers will call. You don't have to hustle, And everybody immediately is like, oh, I'm 3 episodes in. I need to get an advertiser. I'm like, no, don't. Well, I'm going to run this pre-ad or whatever. And I'm like, you're going to make, 15 cents at the end of the month. It's not even worth sliding it in. I'm just like, just do your podcast. Just pump it out. Pump it out.
It's That's kind of what we decided right off the get-go. And I surprised Cole, because I was like, hey, Cole did the Premix podcast, and then when he hurt his back, kind of fell off on that, and had kind of stepped some away from motorsports. And I'm like, this is a waste of motorsports knowledge and brilliance, because he's a stat guy, man. If you need stats about Orange County Speedway, you need stats about desert racing, specifically motorcycles. Um, but you need any class 11 stats from the time, probably from the time he was 3 years old till current. He could probably tell you.
Geez, no pressure.
I wish on the class 11 side, I remember the back page of Dusty Times when they had the classifieds. And I remember as like a teenager, I want to buy a race car, and you could buy a turnkey class 11 ready to race for $3,000 in the
No
Dusty
way.
Times classifieds. And I'm like, we're talking mid 90s and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, was I not stupid? I should have bought about 10 class 11, just stockpile. Would have been a better investment than crypto. Like class 11s have just blown up. It's wild.
Yeah, that's one of Cole's favorite classes, I think.
I love it. I don't know anybody who doesn't like
How
class
could you
11.
hate him? You'd have to be an evil person.
My dad's favorite story, he goes, "This is crazy. They raced in Mexicali one time, and I know we got to go." But my dad, he goes, "You want to talk about a kick in the nuts?" He goes, he was racing. It's me. He goes, me and Walker Evans and Scoop Vessels, and we got these big high horsepower class 8s, and he goes, that's when that class, like the premier division. And he goes, they ran us over this big ass sand dune, like outside of Mexicali. I think it was a Mexicali 250. And he goes, so here he goes, you got me, you got Scoop, you got Walker Evans. He goes, we're all buried on the sand dune down to the axles in these high horsepower trucks. And he goes, this class 11 gets to the top of the sand dune, and he goes, those things will climb anything. And he toots his horn, and then he turns around and goes back to where he started, and he backs up the sand dune in his class 11, gets a run, and he backs over the entire sand dune while his horns going on. And he goes, here you got Walker, Scoop, me, and a couple other class 8s in this class 11. We're buried to the axle. And he goes, he backs over the entire sand dune with his little horn blaring.
Oh my God.
It was the biggest middle finger to all of us. And my dad goes, it was the greatest thing ever. And I was like, those little class 11s will go anywhere. They literally will.
Small but mighty. Yep.
Yeah. That's crazy. I'm a fan of them, and Cole has been since he hurt his back, he's picked up photography, and he started going towards that route and really getting some good stuff. So I always look forward. I know he was in desert last weekend. I think he's going to be back this weekend. So I'm always looking forward to seeing all his pictures, and getting the pre-pictures via cell phone. I'm like, yeah, nice, great shot.
Anything to stay at the races. You if you can't be participating, you got to be around it.
That's one thing I say about off-road. It's a lifestyle. It really is. There's no such thing as the NASCAR lifestyle or the IndyCar lifestyle. Circle track, yes, but but off-road, it's a lifestyle. If I'm not racing or I'm not at the race, I'm in my RV out in the desert anyways. And it's one of the it's the craziest thing this industry is, but it gets its hooks in you, and we're all addicted to the drug. It's just every minute we can, we're at events. I laugh. Sean Gibson, he's a good friend of mine, and I saw him and at Off-Road Expo. I go, Sean, what are you doing? You don't have a booth here. And he looks at me, he goes, yeah, he goes, my wife looked at me, what do you want to do on a Sunday? We have a day off. And he goes, we didn't vend at the Off-Road Expo. And he goes, and I show up to the Off-Road Expo just to walk the show. And I'm like, you're glad for punishment. He goes, dude, it's just this industry. He goes, you can't get away from it. He goes, I have a weekend off. And he goes, we didn't vend so I could have the weekend off, and I still go to the same show. He goes, I should have just vended.
Yeah, I totally understand that.
But I laugh. I mean, it's this industry. It's not just one of us. It's all of us. We're all addicted.
Yeah, we've all got the addiction affliction.
Yeah, absolutely, guys.
Well, did we get all your partners covered?
Yeah, I think we got them all. I think we're good.
Right. I want to make sure I got all your sponsors covered. Jim, thank you so much. We should probably sign off and let you go get some dinner or a cocktail or something.
I got a cold beer in my future, I think.
Yes, now. I know Cole does for sure. So, and I would hit a cold energy drink, but it's getting a little late, and I got to be up early and on the road tomorrow morning. So, Jim, thank you so much for being on. We appreciate it. Episode 116 is yours. Unless you want 115. I've made a note. It's official. So always thank you for all your wealth of information also, and just helping us out. We greatly appreciate it. With that, parting statement.
Oh man, parting statement. I don't know. It's been a crazy couple of years for everybody, and I know there's a lot of unknowns in the world, and it's just keep your chin up, enjoy the holidays, and I don't know. I think there's definitely better times ahead, and I can't complain about life, and I think we all just need to keep plugging along.
Well said. Well said. Cole, what do you got, brother?
Jim, thank you. You're the first podcast I even knew existed. So to be on the show, just thank you. Yep.
No problem. Well, thank you for listening. You were probably one of the 27.
I was number 26. We got it close.
I think that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this, please catch some of the other episodes of Along for the Ride on your favorite streaming service. On behalf of myself and Cole Farrell, Jim Beaver, thank you so much. I'm going to say good night now. Mad Dog out.